Welcome to the Healthpreneur podcast. My name is Uriel Kame, New York Times bestselling author, former professional athlete, and founder of Healthpreneur, the world's leading company helping health and fitness experts start and scale high-end coaching businesses. If you want to attract more clients, learn how to convert them without feeling salesy, and deliver an amazing program for them on the back end, if you want to be inspired by what others just like you have gone through and how you can do the same no matter what life throws your way, then you are in the right place, because every single week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're going to be bringing you the best to help you take your knowledge and expertise to the next level with your health or fitness coaching business. And if you enjoy what you see and hear and would like to take your business to the next level, then I invite you to check out our free online training over at healthpreneurgroup.com/training. And for now, let's get into today's episode. Hey guys, how's it going? Yuri here with you once again. Welcome back to the show. I'm very, very excited to be speaking with our guest today. His name's Chris Guerriero. And Chris and I have known each other loosely for maybe 10 plus years. I think we met in a pool at an event like 8 years ago, really briefly. And then we reconnected recently. And I'm like, dude, we got to have you on the podcast because you're doing some amazing things. So before we formally bring him in and have him speak, I want to give you a bit of context as to who Chris is and why you need to listen to him and this episode specifically. So Chris has built 4 8-figure companies. That's right. There's a lot of zeros behind that. So he's been around for a while, done some amazing things. And he's an advisor, investor, and equity holder in companies across a variety of industries, including health, medical, digital advertising, legal, and real estate. He's been featured on Bloomberg and in Success Magazine, and an entrepreneur as a top entrepreneur of our time. He's also a best-selling author and host of the Built to Grow show. Chris and I both started off in the health and fitness space, and he's doing some amazing stuff now, helping companies scale and doing some really, really big things. So Chris, really pumped to have you on the show. Welcome.
Yuri, I'm stoked to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
So we are going to be talking about how to build a winning leadership team in this episode. This is what you're amazing at doing. This is how you amongst other things, help companies grow and scale. And I think it's really important for our listeners to really understand this. No matter what level of business you're at, this is at some point a discussion you're probably going to be having with yourself or with people around you. Before we dive into that, Chris, what's something very few people know about you?
What's something very few people know about me? Gosh, here. I was born to be a dad. Like, that is my focus in life above anything else. So when we get a chance to talk about business, I love it. Like that is a passion of mine. Growing companies, helping other companies grow, it's a big passion of mine. However, underneath everything I do is, I'm doing this for my family. Like, everything that I do is built on my core competency of my love of being a dad. So that's probably it. It has nothing to do with anything anybody's here to hear. So I apologize for throwing that out there, but that's something most people don't hear me say. Totally.
Well, I can definitely agree with that. And so another question follow up on that is, what do you think is more challenging, raising great kids or building a great company?
Raising great kids is far more difficult.
Yeah.
Like, I can systematize everything. We have processes to predict obstacles at different levels of growth in companies. We have processes, and I have enough experience to onboard great leadership teams and develop them and motivate them and create a culture inside of organizations, no matter what size, that scales them rapidly. But I can sit down with my teenager and be bewildered in some of the things that they bring back. So it is difficult. I read more books probably on being a father than I do on business.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
I write books in business, but I can't write books in being a father.
If only there was like a manual for there's no one size fits all, but
there's not. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that parenting and entrepreneurship are two of the biggest spiritual growth kind of journeys we can be on.
Yeah.
So it's cool. So talk to us about how you got to this stage. Like where did Chris Guerriero start? Where did shit hit the fan? And how did you evolve into doing what you're doing now?
I'm writing a note down on stuff that I want to talk to you guys about. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Where did I start, man? I started as a personal fitness trainer, and I started with this goal of helping the greatest number of people possible to achieve their quote unquote health goals, right? But that particular mantra, that force, that passion, followed us through every single company and every single industry that I built since then. So as a personal fitness trainer, I was able to help a very few people, right? Dozens of people. And then I grew a personal training company up and down the East Coast, which had over 150 personal trainers, and we were able to help hundreds of people with that, right? And then I went from there, because they were all independent contractors, and you can't really, it's like a constant struggle to keep independent contractors rallied around a passion. It was difficult. So I took that and I went into a health club. I started my first health club, grew that into a chain of health clubs on the East Coast, and went from being able to help, hundreds of people in the personal training company to tens of thousands of people. And I sold that company in 2004, which was probably a little 12 or just under 15 years that I was in that industry. Sold that company, wrote my first book right before I sold that company, and utilized the same tactics that I used to really get the word out big for our health clubs in the online world, to get the word out big for our books. And where most authors sell a couple of thousand books in their entire lifetime, we sold 60,000 copies in the first 60 days, 319,000 copies in the first year. We've sold over 1 million copies of the book so far. So we're really able to get out there and help a lot more people. That turned into a TV show, turned into a lot of other books. The health industry, we built several good companies in the health industry, but that attracted to us a lot of other businesses that wanted to know what the hell we were doing to grow so rapidly.
Sure.
And we started helping other companies doing that. And we built this branding company, which then helped politicians to get their word out faster. It helps Hollywood producers to get the word out to fill movie seats, seats inside the movie theaters when the movies comes out. It helped us to really branch out and help people in great industries. And I got into a venture capital firm also, which I'm one of the partners in a relatively good sized venture capital firm. And in there, my core competency is, after a company goes through all the rigmarole of getting funded by us, I'm the one who goes in to the company and I look at their systems, their people, their processes, their culture, and I help to restructure them for growth. Because if we invest a couple of $1 million into them, then within 3 to 5 years, I want to be able to get them, double that. I want to get them $4 million more productive, so that we could take our initial investment back, still maintain an active ownership in there, so that they are now a growing asset inside of our portfolio, right? So, and I'm sorry, long story short, I started wanting to help a lot of people. Now, instead of helping individual people, I'm able to help companies, my own, as well as a few others, who are honest, ethical, moral, legal, and really doing great things with their world, help them to reach out and touch even more and more people. So now we're just touching people in every industry, which is a good feeling.
That's awesome. How do you, as a advisor, venture capitalist, investor, how do you look at, or what are the things that you look for in a company to be like, yeah, this is a company I want to be a part of, in terms of helping them grow and move to the next level?
It has to be a fit with my core competencies. So there's 3 different levels here. So I am either an owner or a partner, right? So I'm the owner, an investor, completely different thing. Mm-hmm. I'm putting money in, and I expect, I want to be able to go in there, bring in a leadership team if I have to, change SOPs if I really want to be able to get my hands in there, use my core competencies and get them to the next level. So I need to know that everything that I know from developing my companies, I could plug in here, get them to the next level, and it's an investment. I'm putting money in, I need the investment back. Mm-hmm. And then the third part is, as an advisor, where growing companies are paying me, I need to know, before I take somebody on into this, it's called Club 28, that my core competencies, after growing my companies and also investing in these other companies, I could take what I know from here, proven systems, the people, the processes, whatever it is, plug them in over here and help them grow, because my brand is on here, right? So my investment here, I'm getting paid up front. but it's my brand. I can't be part of a company and have them decline, because that would look really obviously crappy for me.
So what does the Club 28 signify? Is that the number of people in it, or
that's the number of companies that I'm able to help in 1 year? So my week kind of looks like this. It's and I believe everybody listening really should have a formal schedule. Not maybe not as tight as mine is. I'm a little bit anal about this, but they should have a formal schedule for what the heck gets done every single week, so that they know they can put their finger on that metric and say, yes, I did good this week, right? I pushed things forward this week. So my day goes like this: from 9 to 9:30, Emily, who's been my assistant for like 17 years now, Emily delivers to me my numbers, my metrics, my key metrics for each one of the companies that I own or I'm a partner in. There's 3 to 5 key metrics in every company. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt when I look at those metrics that something's good or something's not good, right? So between 9 and 9:30, I'm taking notes. It's called numbers and notes. I get my numbers, I take notes. I could look through all of my companies and I could know shit's good or shit's hitting the fan, right? I need to talk to them about this. From 9:30 to 12:30 I am in meetings with my leadership teams for each one of those companies, right? Every single call has my leadership team. For my class action noticing firm, we're on the phone. For my branding company, we're on the phone. For the health company, we're on the phone. And those meetings will last anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, depending on the company, depending on the level of growth they're having, depending on if they're having promotions or a launch or whatever it is. It'd be 10 to 30 minutes, and I'll be able to fit them all in during this time. And it's just the leadership team for this one company. And then I hang up and I go to the next one. And I'm talking about 3 things mostly. I'm talking about what everybody on the team will go around. What have you accomplished so far? It's either yesterday, the last 24 hours, or the last week so far. Like today is Thursday, so we would be talking about what have you accomplished this week so far? And then what is your top 5 today, right? We live on top 5s. Top 5 most important uses of our time. So one of the main questions that people ask themselves in my companies every single day, many, many, many times during the day, the same question I ask myself: what is the most important use of my time right now, right? So that's coming from our top 5 list. So we look at what they did, we look at what they're doing right now. What's my top 5 most important things today? And that top 5 must be in alignment with our company's top 5, so that the company is constantly moving forward. And then the third thing that we talk about is is there a rock in your path? Is there some kind of obstacle that either I or somebody else on the team or the team together can just blow up for you and make your life a lot easier today, right? So that's it. So that's the 9:30 to 12:30 and then from 12:30 to 3 o'clock, I work in my companies. I'm an employee of each one of my companies. I have core competencies. I'm really good at a few things. I push things forward doing what I'm really good at during that time. And 3 o'clock, I'm gone. Like that is my day every day except for Wednesday, which I'm sorry, that whole long thing to answer your question. Club 28 is 28 companies that I can work with. On Wednesdays and a little bit of Thursday morning, I am on the call with companies that are inside of Club 28, which are companies doing maybe a couple $1 million a year to a couple $1 billion a month. They're good, strong companies that are aggressive growth. Companies who, if I went in, put my core competencies behind them, they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we together could help blow them the hell up. And we have an average growth. And when I could go through, I'd have to look for the exact stats, but I think we had about 218% growth average for the companies that I work with last year. A little more than 200% growth the year before, 100 and something percent growth, high hundreds the year before that. Again, 200. So we're average quite a substantial amount of growth every single year, because when you have a good company, a company who's really good, honest, ethical, moral, legal, doing good stuff, and then you add this gasoline, the systems, the knowledge, the experience that I have, the relationships that I have into them, then, I mean, what good shit happens.
Totally.
Right. So that's awesome. What my Wednesday is. And I'm juiced at the end of that day. So much so that it's tough for me to go to sleep.
That's great. Well, that's what you know you're doing your unique genius, is that it energizes you instead of draining you.
Yep.
That's great. So in terms of like building out a winning leadership team, in terms of hiring people, so for most companies, everyone starts off as a solo entrepreneur or a partnership of in some way, shape, or form. At what point does that first hire happen? And who usually is that first hire?
Well, okay, good question. And I'm going to answer it two ways.
Sure.
First way is, what was my first hire? Because I want to share what I believe everybody should do, but I also want to share what I did, because often there's a disconnect. And you probably learn from watching sometimes more than from listening.
Yeah.
So what I did was, I had a mentor when I was first starting out, and I asked him that question, if you had to do it all over again, right? It's the most common question that you ask a real successful person, probably. If you had to do it all over again and you were where I am right now, what would you do? And his answer was, I'd hire two people. I would hire an assistant, a really good assistant, and I'd hire a gopher. Somebody who would come to my house, pick up the hose, they'd cut my grass. They would do the stuff that I don't need to do so that I could be productive with my time, right? And the assistant, their only job is to take shit off your desk that you don't need to do so that you could be doing what you're really good at to scale this company. So that's what I did. Now, what I tell people to do, and what we do inside of each one of our organizations now. So if I were actually starting a company now, this is exactly what we do. We create an org chart. It's called a process org chart. It's not the most common org chart that most people know. It's a process org chart. And the process org chart can be done no matter what level you're at right now, whether you're just starting out, or you're just breaking the $1 million mark, or you're trying to break the 10, 25, 50, $100 million mark. Doesn't really make a difference. If you do this will help you understand if you're overstaffed or if you're understaffed, and who to hire. So you literally create an org chart with the boxes on the org chart represent the most important departments or the most important processes that need to happen to get you from where you are to the next level. Not to get you from $1 million to 10 million, or from $1 million to 100 million, to get you from $1 million to 2 million, or from 10 million to 12 million, right? To the next level. Make that perfect organizational chart, not with names, with the processes. So this one might be cold traffic. I may need cold traffic. I mean, somebody who's really great at cold traffic. And then underneath there, I'm going to put the bullet points for the most important processes that have to happen in there. And I'll create the entire company so that my name may initially be in every one of those boxes. Yeah, that's possible. Or I may put vendors' names in there because I don't have enough capital yet to hire anybody else. I don't care, but those things need to happen in order to get me from here to here. And then I look at that and I say, well, if I were to take my name out of one of these boxes, and that would free up a lot of my time so that I could do what I'm really good at, which box would that be? And that's the first hire. So most of the time, we default back to what I actually did early on, because most of the time it is a great assistant.
Yeah, totally. So how does somebody who is, again, building the early stages of their company, and they're trying to think of, okay, I'm at 100K, I want to get to 500 or 1 million, whatever that might be. Like, how do they even know what the org chart might even look like if they've, I guess you only know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. So how does someone who doesn't have the luxury of your guidance or advice figure out what those seats are on the org chart in the first place?
Well, I would start with the Google search, I guess. It's pretty simple to say, here's a company that is similar to mine, right? Or the next level up from me. It's my next level wish list, right? So if your company's doing $1 million and you want to be a $12 million company, and you see a company that is doing things that you believe is at the $12 million range, then you Google them and you say, well, what can I learn? What do I think they're doing here? You go to LinkedIn and you look at their team, because LinkedIn is like an open book for every single person and their job description inside of each company. That's
great.
Amazing what a resource that is that nobody even uses.
Yeah.
We use it all the time. We steal people from other companies in a great, honest way, right? From there. Like here, I'll give you an example. One of the things that I would do is if I wanted a new assistant, which, I don't, in case Emily's listening, I would figure out the job description. I'd figure out 5 or 6 or 10 bullet points of exactly what I need, right? And then I'd write down on another sheet of paper where my company is and where we're growing to. right? I want to make that like a marketing piece. I want to make that really motivating, that if I said it to anybody, they would say, oh, this person started here and they're growing to here. That's pretty impressive. And then I want to go to LinkedIn and I want to find companies that have already done, they've already built what I want to build. And I go on their LinkedIn profile and I'll find out who's the executive assistants. And I'll look at them and I'll say, hey, I'll send them an email and I will say, hey, hi, this is who I am. I am the CEO of blank company. We're a small company right now. We're just starting out. This is what we've accomplished so far. This is where we're going. The one missing piece to this puzzle is an executive assistant to me. And I see that you are doing that for a company that's very similar. And I know like-minded people hang out with like-minded people. Mm-hmm. So if you know anybody who would be a good fit for this, I would love it if you would reach out and just let me know. And I will personally love to speak to that person. And if you have any questions, feel free to ping me here. And I'll jump on the phone with you for 15 minutes. I'll answer your questions. I'd love this. And that's the end of it. Now you're going to get two things. You're going to get people who ignore it or just say, hey, I don't know anybody. Thanks for reaching out. Number two, you're going to have somebody who says, hey, yeah, I'd like 15 minutes. Let me just talk to you about this. I know they're not happy in their job there, right? I know that they want to be associated with a growing company. Maybe they feel stagnant over there, or maybe they just know somebody who they can refer. But if I send that to 10 companies, I'm going to get a good person.
That's awesome. That's really good. Cool. So let's move up the journey of business. So when we get into a couple million in revenue, for instance, at what point as the CEO or the leader of your business, I guess two questions. Number one, does every entrepreneur have to be the CEO of their company? And two, at what point do you start to really think about building out your leadership team, your C-suite? And at what point does that make sense financially as well as growth-wise?
It depends on the industry and what your needs are. So I would say it's pretty common that at the $10 million mark, or give or take 20%, with all the numbers that I give you here, give or take 20%. At the $10 million mark, it's very common for somebody to say, I need somebody who is going to be able to run the organization of this. It's normally a COO who is a first C-suite introduction. After that, often it's a CFO, somebody who can actually handle, and that's not at the $10 million mark, that may be at the $20, $25 million mark. Because prior to the $10 million mark, we're going to have maybe an internal bookkeeper who starts working with us, but still working with an external accounting team. 10 million or so, somewhere around there, maybe we bring an accountant in, maybe. I mean, I probably still wouldn't bring him in-house at the $10 million mark, but certainly I would have a very close relationship with an accountant, and they would know me real well, and they'd know everything about my industry. $20 million mark, maybe we have them in-house, or we're talking about a CFO, right? So that's probably as specific as I could get without knowing the industry and the actual company.
And what are, like, for those who don't really know, like how much is if you wanted to poach someone from another good company in your space through LinkedIn, for instance, I shouldn't say poach, invites, maybe a better word. What type of salary are we looking at? Is this just so people have a ballpark of where they need to be revenue wise in order to make sense of this?
So, hey, let's attack that from a different standpoint, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Because we have people approach us on a regular basis for jobs and they already have great positions. The reason why we have people approaching us, and the reason why if we reach out to somebody, they listen to us, is because we're not poaching. We're not going, and by the way, not a bad word. I love the word, but that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is building a culture. And when we build a culture, and a culture starts with values, and we could go through, I could even share some of our values with you if you want, but we start with our values, and the values are my values, right? They start with me as the leader of the company, because the values of the company, I've got to live, eat, bleed, and breathe them. They have to, everybody who meets me has to say, oh yeah, that's why one of their values is this, because that's just him.
Yep.
And then everybody that we attract, they got to buy into those values. They either have to have them ingrained, or they have to believe them. When they get there, they're like, yeah, I get that. I want to live like that. And then that's the way they live. And when they talk to our customers, talk to our prospects, when they talk to potential investors or whatever, when they talk to each other, the shit comes out. The values come out in them, right? They want them. And because of that, when we reach out to people, there's a culture in here now. Because of that, when we reach out to people, it is a culture thing. Like, they're coming for the culture. They're coming because they want to be part of this growing culture, not just because there's a number associated with it. If we go to people with a number, then those people are seeking numbers and they will leave us.
Sure. Yeah. And like, I mean, with that said, is there a ballpark? Like, are we looking at, cause I mean, there still is a point where people are like, culturally, this makes a lot of sense, but this obviously has to meet their financial needs within a range. Yeah. So for a good COO to move from, I don't know, 10 to whatever million, were we talking like $500,000 hire per year? No?
COO?
Yeah.
COO, it depends on the industry. So there's a lot of reasons why somebody will work for a company in a C-level position. The great majority, let me put it this way. It depends on the industry. It depends on where in America or in the world you are because of the economic environment. I could get somebody for $150,000 in a C position in the mid states, but if you're going to, where I am on the East Coast or the West Coast, that exact same position in the exact same industry is going to be 2.5 times that pretty easily.
Yeah, that makes sense.
However, if they're coming and I could get somebody here for far less money if there is an equity position. So for a great COO, not a CFO, I would never give a CFO equity. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say never. I have never. A COO, I've given equity, small percentage, and it is an equity, not in the company. They don't have voting privileges. They don't have stock. What they have is what you find is if you're reaching out to somebody and you're saying, hey, you're a COO there, come be a COO here, you've got to put a carrot at the end of the stick that is going to be something that fulfills something that they really need. Here's what most of them need. They grew a company and they're getting a salary and they may get a bonus, but they don't own a piece of the company. Over here, you already know what you did over there. You do the same shit over here, and you're going to get a piece of the equity. The equity starts the day you sign the contract, and it has nothing to do with the money we've been making. You own a piece of the equity in the growth of the company from this point forward, because this is what you're affecting. Yeah, so maybe 1% of the equity this way forward. If you stop, if for some reason you no longer are employed here, your equity stops. But if for some reason we sell this asset, while you're here, if you have 1% equity, you have 1% equity in the sale also. So that's such a big carrot for the right person.
That's awesome. That's really good. So what do you see, regardless of the level of the company, what are maybe 3 mistakes that companies make in hiring or building out their leadership team?
Well, so I don't know if I have 3. Let's go through this. Maybe I have 1, maybe I have 20. Let me think. 3 mistakes. Not attracting the right person, not filtering them before they come in, right? So the filtering process, the interview process is vital, right? We need them to jump through some hoops before they even talk to anybody. We need them to talk to somebody in the company to see if they're a fit. We need them to talk to the CEO after we know they're a fit, right? And we need to exhaust them in those interviews so that they're there so long that they begin to tell you the truth, right? We need to onboard them properly. So one of the biggest mistakes is that a company says, yeah, we're so damn good. We not only know how to go find the right person and filter them. Then what we do is we have this great training program where it's called the onboarding process. We bring them in, they meet with people, they freaking get this great training, and then they get on with their lives. Some of them last, some of them don't. And they want to know, why would I put so much money into this training because so many of these people don't last afterwards. Here's the biggest problem. The problem is when you're training somebody during the onboarding process, they're drinking through a fire hose. You are giving them everything and you're expecting them to remember everything. And then here's what happens. They get in, they're real excited. They go, there's this training, they start, and then they kind of plummet a little bit. And they come up a little bit and they plummet. And their first 30, 60, 90, even 120 days is this roller coaster because they don't remember everything in that training session. So after everybody gets trained, we throw them into the fire for 2 weeks. And then we bring them back to a retraining, which is only a day or two, right? But during that retraining, they're touching on stuff and they're like, oh, now I get this. Like now that I saw it live, now I get this. And they come back in and now their success trajectory is much more fluid.
That's awesome. That's good.
I mean,
Because now they've experienced it. It makes sense for them because they've already, been through that process. And are you typically like with this type of onboarding training, would it be role specific or is it more of like a company cultural thing and expecting those people to be really proficient in their area already? Or is it a bit of both?
So it's both, but the culture always comes first prior to them even going through the specific training.
Yeah.
So the culture would be part of the interview process. Part of the interview process, depending on the size of the company, but let's just say we have a company that's doing a couple of $1 million, so they have some staff. They even have an office, right? Mm-hmm. So this is not where everybody's virtual, they're working from their house. They have an office, you're doing a couple of $1 million or whatever the case is. You have somebody come in, they go through meeting a few people. They're still doing the interview process. I will take them in and I will put them into a room with the rest of the team. I'll have the rest of the team just hang out with them and just talk with them. I want the team to feel like there's a fit. I want them to feel like there's a fit with the team. I want it to be a room where it's not a distraction to them. It's not a work room, but they get a chance to socialize. That's big. That's the culture fit. If they pass that, we don't need to train them on the culture. We know that they're a fit.
Yeah.
The rest, the onboarding is really specific training for their position.
Cool. What about KPIs or metrics that each new hire or individual in the team or company is accountable to? Is that something you guys employ? Is it one number or are there a few? What does that look like typically?
Well, the company always has 3 to 5 key metrics. Mm-hmm. Inside of each person, however, they have metrics, and that'll vary. Depending on the department that they're in. But there's metrics for everything. So here's where a lot of people think that there's a gray area. Everybody understands what a salesperson's metrics might be, right? Yeah. Here's the number of phone calls. Here's the number of contacts. Here's the number of, closes. Here's the number of retention. There's specific key metrics that most salespeople understand. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're looking at this and you're saying, yeah, but I have an assistant. How is there key metrics? What are the key metrics for an executive assistant? There's got to be key metrics for every single person in here. And those key metrics may be, amount of projects they take off my desk. It might be the amount of time they take to handle a challenge inside the organization. It might be, how long do you take between to get information out before one of our team meetings? We need our team for our daily meetings to have their invite along with what they should come prepared with, an hour before the meeting, if not more, right? If it's less than an hour before the meeting, it's fruitless. If it's an hour before the meeting, that seems to be the sweet spot where the meeting's on everybody's mind and they have time to prepare, right? Yeah. So there's metrics for everybody, and it makes it very simple when you know what I expect of you and what you could expect of me. Everybody gets along so much better.
Yeah, that's good. Because I think one of the challenges for a lot of companies, ours included, is really identifying within a operational role, like what are some of the metrics? And you mentioned the speed of implementation or the kind of the turnaround time of certain things, but it's a little bit more gray than how many sales did you bring in, right? It's a little bit less cut and dry. But I think for me, what's helped is sometimes just getting creative and sitting down and thinking what is meaningful for a company, even if it's not like a standard KPI, whatever, and just kind of thinking through that. Because I think one of the biggest problems that I've had in the past is bringing on team members who weren't clear about their role and what they were accountable to. And I think, and obviously you can correct me if I'm wrong, everyone wants to know how to win, right? How they win in their role. And I think the right KPIs can really help with that.
Yeah. Hey, listen, our job, yours, mine, the entrepreneur's job is to make everybody underneath us look like rock stars.
Yeah.
Like that's the end of it. Like I want systems to be awesome so that the person using the system looks like a rock star. I want the person to feel comfortable tweaking that system constantly so that it stays up to date, so the person keeps looking like a rock star, right? The only way we can do this is we have regular meetings. We have daily, weekly, quarterly, monthly, quarterly, and annual meetings. During our annual meeting, it's pivotal for the rest of the year. So anybody who doesn't have meetings with their team, I believe it could be a game changer when you do these properly. It's a tough transition in the beginning if you've never had team meetings, because if you all of a sudden you have team meetings, people think you're micromanaging them. But when done properly, it opens everybody's eyes up and it tells them exactly what the target is, and everybody's on. Now you're a team working towards a target, and it's crazy fun. But our annual meeting, I really only have a couple of jobs at this annual meeting. We get everybody together, and we'll put and this is too big of a conversation for what we're doing right now, but I'll give you the 30,000-foot view.
Yeah.
We go on a giant whiteboard. I may put a big number at the top of that whiteboard, and that might be, let's just say, for argument's sake, it's $25 million. That's what we need to hit the end of this year. And then underneath there, we'll put the top 3 or 4 revenue sources. It might be, this service number 1, product number 1 over here, right? And then every single person who has a stake in helping us grow that, every employee, every independent contractor, every vendor will be there, either in the room or on the TV screens behind me in our war room. So everybody's part of this meeting, and everybody brainstorms on the first product or service. And we go over every single action that needs to take place. And it's going to take hours to get this down. And the content writer will say, well, we did 20 articles and 20 this and 20 that last year, and we had 4 sales funnels for this. We'll just double that and we'll be able to do this. And our cold traffic guy will say, but if we're going to do that, we're going to have to not just use Google, we're also going to have to use Facebook. In order to do that, we're going to have all these tasks. In the end, we're going to be left with this whiteboard that looks like somebody vomited on it with millions of tasks for this. Millions is an exaggeration. Hundreds of tasks to reach just this one bubble, this one product over here. Then we'll do it for the other 2 or 3 that we have left. So we have all these tasks. And then Emily's job will be to go up there and take one task down and drag it over to somebody's list. So we have a column for the name of every single person who is on our team. Employee, independent contractor, vendor, doesn't make a difference. Everybody who is in that meeting or who has part of helping us reach that $25 million is on that. They have a column, and we drag every single task over, and they take ownership of it. They say, yes, I'm going to do that. Put that on my list, definitely. Everything from there, every single task. So we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if we do every task on that whiteboard, we will meet or exceed the number for that first bubble. If we meet or exceed the number for each one of those bubbles, each one of those products or services, we will meet or exceed the $25 million. So now it just comes down to managing these tasks. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their list of tasks, which may be 100, 150 for the entire year to do this. So then the person's job, let's just call it me, Chris's job, I have a list of 150 things that I need to get done this year. My job every single day is to choose the top 5 things, our top 5 list. Every single person in our companies run their departments with a top 5 list, every single daily top 5 list. They take the top 5 most important things from that list and they belt them the hell out that day, right? That's what our meetings were based on that you and I started talking about earlier. Our daily meetings, we go over, what did you do already? What are you doing today? What's on your top 5 list? As long as they're taking their top 5 list from that project sheet, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that everybody is doing tasks that bring the company towards our top 5 goals, right? And if all those tasks that are on that board get done, we will meet or exceed those numbers, and we as a team celebrate.
That's great. What happens in cases where this type of planning is taking place and the person who is, or the team is putting stuff out there that is maybe untested, unproven, and maybe they're climbing the wrong ladder, right? So they go in, they set a goal, and the strategy or tactics to reach that goal, they're not too sure if it's going to work. And then they deploy it for a couple of weeks and they're like, you know what, this is obviously not working. I guess the question is, as a leader, there's an element of, I guess, foresight and predictiveness that I think is, can be powerful.
Yeah.
But what happens in cases where maybe someone doesn't have that, where they're just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks?
Well, you're talking about the initial actions that we put on that whiteboard.
Sure. Yeah. Say, hey,
So,
we're going to do 25 million by doing this and this and
okay.
this. And maybe some of those things, they don't move the needle at all.
Yeah. So definitely there's going to be red flags on there.
Yeah.
The challenge, our job is to make sure that everybody on our team earned their right to be there. Right. So having a bad hire in there is a virus, and it will screw things up. However, the solution to that, usually, to make it as clean as possible, right? We're not going to be perfect on this, which means we have to be flexible in how we're reaching things throughout the year. But to get as perfect as possible, everybody's got to be in that room. So doing that one thing helps so that our paid media people can see the mistakes that our content writer might make.
Yeah.
Or our ops guy, because of his experience, may see the problems that somebody else might make. So when somebody is suggesting an action that goes up here or a task that goes up there, we are all talking about it and say, well, if you're going to do that, then I need to do this, 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 and this. Or the coder is going to get up there and say, the last time you opened up traffic for Facebook, everything got shut down, right? So we need to then be able to build this number of funnels out, which means we're going to need this hosting and these accounts and this and this and this. So all of those things go on there. Now, if shit hits the fan as we're implementing those things, then it needs to come up. That becomes something that we are able to predict only because we have our daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual meetings, right? The annual meeting, all those things get broken down and taken care of daily. So when we hit an obstacle, if we can't push through it within a couple of days, then we know we've got to be flexible and have a contingency plan built in there. But we'll know about it as a team, and we'll hit that obstacle full force.
Once, I can't remember if it was an article in New York Times or something like that. There's like a number of different traits of great leaders, and one of them was stubborn on vision, flexible on strategy. And I'm like, that's so good, because like there's so many times where, like, especially now where things are changing so quickly with technology and algorithm changes. And I think if you're so stubborn, I'm like, no, this is the way we've always done it. We saw how Blockbuster ended up, right? Wicked. One last question for you. And then I'm going to I totally didn't tell you about the rapid five that I'm going to throw your way in a couple moments. But so you start a company because you love doing something. You want to obviously, live the entrepreneurial dream. At some level, the journey, the business becomes very different from how it started. And in a lot of cases, people who initially enjoyed the creative marketing salesy side now become managers. They're managing people and they don't necessarily like that as much. How does somebody identify, you know what, maybe I just want to create content and I don't want to run this company? Like, at what point do they kind of step down, bring someone else in, and just kind of do their thing within the company as it grows?
At what point? Hopefully before they go through burnout, but it's rarely that case.
Yeah.
So we could talk more intelligently, I think, about solutions to that than about how you could predict it, because most people can't predict that until it's too late. Solutions are: take on a partner. Number one solution, without a doubt. Take on a partner who has a core competency that is going to truly be able to help, but also the buy-in. There's got to be like it doesn't always have to be financial buy-in, but there's got to be enough skin in the game so that you both feel comfortable with this. Then there's got to be the right paperwork in place if you are going to take on a partner, a real partnership contract, a real operating agreement, real partners. Onboarding somebody who has a strong skill set. If we are at the level that we just now know we hate this, I don't love this anymore, but I have a lot of revenue coming in, then I would onboard somebody. If I don't have a lot of revenue coming in, I may partner with somebody, right? Because there's somebody who hates what they're doing because they don't want to do what you're doing, and you hate what you're doing because you don't want to do what they're doing. Perfect match. Yeah. That's why you go to these seminars and these events, right? To make friends and talk with people. If I have enough revenue coming in, I'm going to onboard somebody. If I'm at this level and I know I don't like it, I still love to build stuff, but I don't like it, then you sell, right? And this word sell is taboo to so many people, especially in the internet marketing industry, because they don't understand how to sell a company, because they never built a real company. So the strategy here becomes making your company sellable. And during the process of making your company sellable, you make your company so much more effective that you become far more ROI positive, far more profitable, which is a great process to go through.
So with that said, and I totally agree with that, because so with that said, what is something from day one?
Yeah.
You literally just set up your corporation. What's something from day one every entrepreneur should do in their business, whether or not they want to sell, but just with the intention that if I did eventually, this needs to be in place from day one, or at least the habit of whatever it needs to be, whatever it needs to be.
Day one, first thing we do, figure out who's going to acquire us. If I know who's going to acquire us, which means two things. Number one, who is acquiring companies like mine? Number two, who has deep enough pockets to afford me, right? I find that. Then I find, what do I love doing that is a perfect fit to their puzzle? And then I build what I believe is a perfect fit to that puzzle. And then I create a relationship with them, and I let them know that I'm on the radar and that we are building something that is a perfect fit to their puzzle. There is, in most large companies, an acquisition manager, right? The person, guy or woman in charge of buying companies. That is part of their growth model. Part of our growth model is acquiring other companies, right? That is part of how we grow. Now, and we've done this lots of different times. And we have a specific set of criteria. I'm struggling to say this because I don't want to share the criteria with you.
You don't have to.
We have a specific criteria that we look for, and that when we know that somebody's on that criteria, they are on our radar, right? We want to create a relationship with them. But if somebody reaches out to us and says, hey, listen, I know you've acquired companies like ours before. What do I need to do? Like, this is what we have. What would I need to do? Am I like a wet dream for you, or am I, a piece of crap to you? And what do I need to do to be appealing to you? That's pretty easy.
Cool. That's awesome. That's not something I would have thought of. That's thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, this has been amazing. We could talk all day about this stuff, but I do want to make sure that our listeners know where to find you. Guys, chrisguerriero.com. Let me spell that out. CHRIS. It's Chris, obviously. Last name Guerriero, GUERRIERO.com. Check out his website. Lots of cool stuff over there. Where else can people follow you and stay in touch with your work?
Well, chrisguerriero.com is the easiest place. That's the portal where we give all the information. We're starting a program called Built to Grow. So if they go to built2growshow.com, the Built to Grow to Show is where we're going to be posting a lot of the Built to Grow shows, which is going to be programs like this, where I'm literally talking to people about how to scale, how to attract the right people, how to motivate the right people, how to create culture inside their organization, how to create systems that help companies to grow, where we'll be feeding them tactics, small tactics that we're using inside of my companies and the companies that I invest in to help them grow.
That's great. Awesome. All right. So are you ready for the rapid five?
Yeah, absolutely.
These are 5 rapid fire questions. You have no idea what they are. So nothing incriminating. It's all good. Okay. Number 1, what is your biggest strength?
Leading.
Cool.
Leading my teams, leading.
Cool. Number 2, what's your biggest weakness?
Temper.
Temper?
Yeah. So it is. So you and I started this prior to us recording. You and I started, and we were talking about something, and I said one of the things I'm really focused on right now is being more influential. And being more influential, in my opinion, means learning how to understand the person that I'm speaking with. So I seek to understand from their point of view exactly what they're sharing, so that I know how to communicate with them better, more effectively. So not doing that, I tend to quickly turn things off and stay focused on the path, which turns out to be a little rude sometimes. And I try to work on that.
I think a lot of us, the leadership types, are very much like that a lot of times.
Yeah. Let's use the word blunt, not rude.
Exactly. Blunt, just short. Exactly. Number 3, what's one skill you've become dangerously good at in order to grow your businesses?
Going into companies and being able to see holes and filling those holes in a creative way. So if I were to sum that up, it would be thinking outside the box.
Awesome. Wicked. Number 4, what do you do first thing in the morning?
Very first thing in the morning, before my feet even hit the ground, I drink a glass of water. I go work out. As soon as I'm done with my workout, I have breakfast, and then I read and I get to work.
All of that before your feet hit the ground?
No. Before my feet hit the ground, I have a glass of water.
You're in 0 G while you're doing
Then my feet hit the ground and I go work out, right? But I, so I have breakfast. When I have breakfast with my kids.
Yep.
When I work out in the morning, I'm working out with my son. So it is all integrated with my kids. I get them to school, and then when I get back, I'm here and I'm ready to go.
That's great. And finally, complete the sentence. I know I'm being successful when.
I know I'm being successful when people come back to me and they say that what I have done has helped them.
Awesome. Chris, dude, thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom, just a piece of your experience and all your wisdom. I know our listeners are going to get a ton of value out of this one. So, dude, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, Yuri, it was great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Healthpreneur podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, here's what I'd like you to do right now. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Healthpreneur podcast on iTunes. And while you're there, leave us a rating or review. It helps us get in front of more people and change more lives. And if you're ready to start or scale your health or fitness coaching business and want to start getting in front of more people, working with them at a higher level without trading time for money, then I invite you to check out our free 7-figure health business blueprint training, totally free right now. And you can do so at healthpreneurgroup.com/training. For now, thank you so much for joining us. Continue to be great, do great, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.